I'm really pleased to be giving the opening address here today. I do lots with the university up the road, and this is a real hot spot for pharma. And I did this about 6 years ago and said nice things, and I'm going to say even nicer things today. So it's going to be a bit of a Dundee loving. We're starting a bit late. It's not my fault. So when I don't finish at 10 o'clock, it's not my fault. Okay, I'll just make that point now. What I'd like to do today is to say a little bit about how we're externalising more and how we are looking to innovate with universities around the globe. And then to give some examples, the Kinase Consortium with Philip Cohen up the road here, which is now in its 13th year, believe it or not. Skills, which is a new one, which is just starting ubiquitination research. Say a little bit about the DDU here. And then one of our new schemes, Discovery Partnerships in Academia, where we are looking to open up more of our resources, and pharma are all looking for new ways of innovating with academia and biotech. And then a couple of slides on a few prizes that Dundee have won this year. So the changing face of innovation. I think everyone knows that there used to be the large corporate R&D facilities in electronics and pharma. We had smart scientists, low levels of collaboration. It's pretty much the closed model. We've now got, sorry, a bit heavy on the thumb there. We've now got much leaner units. We have what we call discovery performance units of 60 to 70 people working in very tight areas, almost like a biotech within main pharma. We're collaborating more. We've still got the same smart guys, but we're definitely into more partnerships, which is great for me because that's what I've done for a living for the last 15 or 16 years. The others have just finally come round to it. If you have a look at the what alliances are delivering to just the GSK pipeline, so the blue is the in-house stuff, and then the orangey colour there is what we do from alliances. You can see that in phase 3, 65% of our pipeline is actually in licensed. And so for a relatively small workforce, you get quite a bit of leverage from the biz dev people. Having said that, you still need to have the world-class scientists in the various areas, otherwise, frankly, you don't know what you're buying. These are the criteria that we use the main criteria that we use to select our collaborative research projects. Strategic fit, quality of science, things taken as a given. And Dundee would certainly check all of these boxes from the university here. And the first one I want to talk about is the Dundee Kinase Consortium. Most people would have heard of it, but it is still going from strength to strength. It's a semi-exclusive public-private partnership. I used this slide at St Andrews meeting, at ABPI meeting about 6-7 years ago with Philip Cohen, and he liked it. And it's still true today. Of all the hundreds, I mean, I've probably got 1,000 active collaborations on the books, just to give you some idea. That's globally. My team is split across Stevenage, where I work, in England, and Research Triangle Park in Philadelphia. And between us, we place most of the academic collaborations globally. Now, obviously, Harvard have the critical mass, but in terms of actually running the thing, Dundee is particularly well managed. Ironically, the seed of the idea came from a heritage GSK company, George Post, who at the time was running R&D for SB. And Phil Cohen sat on his advisory board, and this was back in '96 when, frankly, there weren't many consortia. And George Post had the idea of perhaps getting a consortia of companies to engage in kinase research. And then Philip spent 2 years trundling around the companies with Pete Downs and the Industrial Liaison Office to try and broker a contract, and eventually they got there a couple of years later. So the first 5 companies were SB, Novo Nordisk, Pfizer, Astra and Zeneca. £6.5 million went into the consortium. Boehringer Ingelheim joined late, so they paid a bit more. And then, of course, during that period, Astra and Zeneca actually merged, and so they were paying double bubble for a couple of years. Then there'd been a few more mergers by 2003, so GlaxoSmithKline, BI, we joined. Novo Nordisk left, but the 2 Mercks came in. That's the European and the US Merck. AstraZeneca remained in as a single company. And now we're in the current one, and we're actually now just discussing whether or not we go to a 4th consortium, which is unprecedented. And I've been asked to talk about Dundee Kinase Consortium in places as far afield as Beijing and Washington. So it's for a tiny place, it's certainly on the map. So why kinases? Well, it's the second most studied, behind GPCRs, it's the second most studied set of programs within pharma, with about a quarter to a third of all programs. And obviously Dundee, you have people here who live, sleep and eat it. It's the godfather, Philip Cohen. You've got an autocrat who's world class in his field, been in the field for 35 years. He's forgotten more than most of us know. Leading most cited bioscientists in Europe, and he heads the most cited research institute. So the quality of the science is taken as a given, as indeed is the critical mass. Science is so difficult nowadays. Pharma, I can remember many projects within Glaxo where we thought we were going to do the whole thing on our own. And science is so big nowadays, and it's so expensive that you have to partner and you have to act as a hub to pull the different information sources together. So the co-directors are Pete Downs, who's now Vice-Chancellor, so that's good. It's like a family type thing up here, and Dario Alessi, who hopefully will get the position when Philip retires later this year. So highly cited by anybody's reckoning, these are internationally excellent scientists. So the division of signal transduction therapy are actually contracted to the companies to do certain things. The most important thing is that they provide novel information on signal transduction pathways, so looking at new and novel targets. They develop enzyme assays for kinases and in fact put them out to supplier companies. But a lot of the assays are actually developed, the difficult ones are developed within the university base and then get pushed out to the supply CRO type companies. They train PhD, all universities train PhDs, but they do train scientists that are fit for purpose, and frankly, you see them giving talks at Dundee and they're the people that you want to recruit. Bench space available for industrial scientists to actually come in and actually perhaps co-develop, or sometimes we would have developed a technology in-house that we want to share with the academic so that we can then actually spread the word. And they actually test molecules and do screening for us. And they've got, in fact, they've got more assays than that now. So I asked one of the guys in the lab to say, well, what have Dundee given us in the recent consortium? And they've given us lots of batches of enzymes that we actually use for screening, antibodies, cDNAs. So it's not just that we tap into the intellectual capital that's there. We actually get physical things from it. I got Rob Forter to send me this slide. This is all the companies together, just to give you some idea of the numbers of the suppliers since the consortium's been going, of the amount of reagents that they've provided. And it's all done electronically through pro formas, and it's like interacting with a CRO. The consortium funding is split between 60% for basic research, where we can suggest ideas. That's probably the best way of saying it. We can suggest themes for research, and frankly, the academics would be pretty daft if they weren't going to be interested in the things that we were also interested in. But at the end of the day, it's their call. And then 40% is for key services, which is run as part of the consortium. The industrial people have brought semi-industrialisation to the screening processes, so barcode readers and automation and electronic data transfer are all things that I think Dundee would be the first to say that obviously they weren't good at, but the companies have driven that, and there's a screening group which helped drive that. All the screening data goes onto an intranet, as indeed do all the pre-publications, which we see before they get submitted. The reagents catalogue with the spec is all on there, and all of the companies then clone the Dundee intranet site, and then our scientists globally, so in Shanghai and RTP, Philadelphia, etc., Lesanui, they all tap into that for what they want. So the consortium companies share the right to exploit the unit's reagents. We have semi-exclusive licenses. If none of the companies in the consortium want stuff, then Dundee can push it out further afield. But it's a healthy situation, because rather than stuff sitting on the back burner, we know that Pfizer and AstraZeneca have got access to the same reagents as us. So, we can't drag our feet when we're looking to push something through. And I see that competition as a healthy way forward. We can delay publication for up to 9 months, but frankly, it's a non-issue. Our scientists want to publish just as much as the academic scientists, and I think I can count on one hand the number of times there have been publication issues. It's not a problem. We can supply our own reagents. You think about it, Phil Kane gets to see chemical diversity from 5 major pharmaceutical companies. We can supply our own reagents, often the most selective tools there are available. And it's up to Dundee as to whether or not they accept the terms of those. So he would get to know that. He would get to know certain information about some of our molecules and about the other companies. When it's consistent with our patenting strategy, he can publish. Why would we want to go with someone else when the work's already been done with someone we trust? And as I said before, we can suggest but not dictate the areas for basic research within the consortium. Now, Dundee Life Sciences are multi-stream funding, and I put this slide together for something else ages ago, so it's a little bit out of date, but the principle remains constant, because the MRC always say, it's almost like the MRC are driving the whole thing. The research councils do about a quarter of the funding for biological sciences, and half of that is actually BBSRC. But the charities, there are 12 charities in there, but the predominant funding is Wellcome Trust. So you think a lot of Dundee, everything's peer reviewed. Most of the Wellcome Trust money, as you know, goes to the Golden Triangle down south, but Dundee do get their fair share. But the point I really wanted to make about this pie chart was that industry is about 16%. So that's still a lot of money. It's a significant amount, but Dundee are not in the pocket of industry, nor would we want them to be. It has to be. All good groups have to be multi-stream funded, and it all has to be peer reviewed, which they are. We have 3 formal meetings here. We used to have 4, but that was too many. So we have 3. In fact, we've got them this week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week, rather than Tuesday to Thursday. And the fact that scientists come over from Europe and from the US, I think, speaks volumes. The meetings are run like clockwork, from Davey picking us up at the airport to, taking us back and everything in between. And obviously, like all good collaborations, there's regular contact between the meetings. So the first day, so Monday, we had one-to-one meetings where the individual companies meet the scientists they want to talk to about, the latest papers and the latest results. Day 2 is a full scientific program from 9. It was from 9 till 5 yesterday. Then we have a business meeting, which I usually chair, where we sort out any contractual or screening issues, perhaps. And then we usually go out for something nice to eat. St Andrews last night, very nice. And the networking opportunity, not only between academia and industry, but industry and MRC, is great. There's a level of trust, I think, between the companies now, and it works really well. On day 3, we have a one-to-one with Philip, where we have a very interesting hour where he tries to pump us for as much about our development pipelines and where the various molecules are. We just try and pick his brains on our pet projects, and at those meetings we would also talk about publication strategy. And he sits there like the old gunslinger with the sun coming over his shoulder and tries to suck us as much information as he possibly can. It's good. It's always a good hour's worth of banter. So value of the DSTT to industry, well, information really on new drug targets. Dundee get it, they know that frankly they're not going to take a drug all the way through, and it's only truly naive academics who still believe that. So they know they've got to partner, they know that they're only going to get drugs to a certain scale. They also know that the money is in the collaboration rather than the license income. If it comes later on down the line, that's great, but frankly the money you're going to lose out on by arguing the toss about some IP that may not get anywhere, they get it. And frankly, not just because Diane's here, but with people like Rob Ford, a sensible attitude towards actually getting an agreement in place. They don't roll over, but just a sensible attitude and can see it from both perspectives, I think, is another reason why Dundee do so well. And then we get all the tangibles that I've already mentioned. Transgenics as well, which there's an MRC transgenic unit as part of this. Now, to the university, they get access to the chemical tools, they get joint publications in top journals, they certainly get intellectual direction from industry, they pick our brains as much as the other way around. And we've certainly helped to semi-industrialise and help share best practice across the companies. That was really interesting when we set up the automation here, which was some years ago now. And we realised that all the companies were using different barcode readers, because every month we send up molecules to be screened in their kinase panel, and we were all using different plates and barcode readers, so we all wanted to standardise across the companies. So the effectiveness of the consortium was recognised by the Queen's Award back in 2006 to Philip and Peter, and Dundee have maintained their cutting edge over signalling research over a number of decades. This isn't just a quick 5-minute thing, and I think because they are flexible and responsive and listen, frankly, with open ears to where the companies are going, because obviously the change has never been greater in our sector at the moment. They've been adaptable, still maintained quality science, still punched out good papers, but have certainly helped us with lots of our programs. So the latest one, thinking, planning ahead, as they do. I mean, ubiquitination research is kind of in its embryonic stages now and is kicking off. Philip Cohen actually got into the government manifesto for this signalling institute and managed to get 10 million out of Scottish Government 2.5 years ago. And within a year recruited researchers from the likes of the LMB in Cambridge and from EMBL and from the US, and has got very quickly got a very strong team together. Realised that there was a potential service element to this as well, so span out a reagent company. Just got 4 people at the moment that are actually embedded within the group here. Ubiquigent, so our oncology group are in Upper Providence in Philadelphia, use these quite heavily, as well as funding 2 or 3 postdocs in Ron Hayes' group within this space. So again, planning strategically about overlapping areas, signalling research where they're strong, what's the connection between kinases and the dubs, and I'm sure that this field will explode in the coming years, and Dundee are ideally placed to capitalise on that. I want to change tack a little bit and just mention the Dundee Drug Discovery Unit and the Neglected Diseases Group, because this is another area that our company feel quite passionate about. We've got a site in Tres Cantos with 112 people, but space for another 60 where we allow other people to go into that unit to work on neglected diseases. That's all they do there, so they work a lot with MMV, DNDi, Action TB, World Health Organisation, and they leverage funds, which is great because Mike Ferguson and Adam Fairlamb here, they're very big in that space, and Paul Wyatt, who runs the Drug Discovery Unit, ex-GSK, so he knows what's what in the screening lab. They work very closely together, and we're just in discussion now with the Wellcome Trust about something in kinetoplastids, which is probably a good few £1 million programme. So they've got 40 staff in the unit, a lot of drug discovery experience, a lot of ex-GSK people actually, and the good thing about it, I hadn't really thought about it until this week when I heard a couple of other biotechs talking about it. The equipment they've got there, in the dreams of the small biotech company, they couldn't afford it, whereas the biotech companies get to come in, they get to use the kit, get to use these facilities, and it's a real win-win for everyone. So the DDU acts as a bridge between the neglected disease area and the novel targets and pathways, and like all good groups, again, they're multi-stream funded, Wellcome Trust being the major funder. 22 million over 5 years. In fact, I got this slide from a mate at the Wellcome Trust. He actually came me these slides. So kinetoplastids, I mentioned, African sleeping sickness, where I think a lot of companies are now realising that we've got to do more in the developing world. Certainly our Chief Executive, Andrew Whitty, who was on the radio day before yesterday, talking about a vaccine. He's serious about this, and we have a fund, so if there's anybody out there in the university who has a bright idea for a developing world disease, then they can go to Tres Cantos, they can get access to our category containment facilities, get access to our screening programs and to our chemistry to help drive those programs along. Now, Patrick Vallance is our guy, clinician, who runs most of the medicine and our early stage drug discovery now. And in fact, this was the last time I came up to Dundee, which was Valentine's Day. And somebody phoned me up and said, "Have you seen the FT today?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, Patrick's in it and he's just launching your new scheme." Well, I'm the person who negotiates these. And in this, he says that we're going to do 10 in the first year. And it's a way of, we have some quite senior level scientists whose sole role is to scan academia, like lots of us are trying to do at the moment, for the good ideas, but to take those ideas and to act as a conduit into the engine that is GSK. So to provide the academic with access to our high throughput facilities and to our chemistry and to our DMPK. And so from the academic, we're looking for biological insight, target pathway expertise, sometimes disease models that we may not have set up, and certainly clinical disease insight and KOLs. But from our perspective, we're providing all the things that academia would love to have, but obviously can't have that level of infrastructure. So it could be any one of these things. With these discovery partnerships in academia, you have to, there has to be some added value from the interaction with GSK other than money. Because frankly, if it's just money, you might as well go away and do it and then we'll either license from you or buy the company later on down the line once you've run quickly with it. So there have to be one of these things here which has to contribute towards driving your program to getting a medicine down that line to get it into man quicker. And these things can come in anything up to candidate selection, so wherever those arrows are. So some academics will have molecules, they often think they're druggable, they hardly ever are, but they're good starting points, and we want to tap into that. But the important thing here, in fact there are two things, is once it gets to candidate selection, if we're lucky enough to get it that far, and this is all milestone driven, so it's not your 3-year grant where they take the money and give you a report at 2 years and you meet once a quarter, see how you're getting on. This is driven. If you don't achieve the milestone, you don't get the next money. So you don't lose out, but you have to put some skin in the game. And that's because we're serious about, we only want to work with people who actually do want to get drugs all the way through to man. We don't want people who just want their next grant. So much so that some of these people will be clinical people and some of them will not. But the idea is that even once it gets to candidates, up until candidate selection, the academic is actually helping drive the decision-making process, to progress the molecule through to the next stage. Once you get to candidate selection, it starts getting really expensive and you can't have an academic telling you when you're going to do your clinical trials and how you're going to do them. But they need to keep engaged. In the past, people have said that, industry take the project and then run and, we don't get to hear about it. Well, we will keep those people engaged all the way through to launch, and there are royalties and milestone payments in the deal. For if it does go all the way. So if we make money, you make money. So today there is a press release going out later on this morning. We've done one of these. We looked to Dundee. In fact, I sat down with Rob Ford to work up the scheme. What would be sensible. I knew what was sensible from our perspective, but I wanted to see it from the university perspective. I knew that he would be fair and reasonable. So we pretty much worked this first one up, and this first one is overly complicated. We need to make the agreement slightly slimmer, so we will do for the next one. But this is a global thing that we're doing here. So we've looked at, I think, 330 proposals. We're doing 7 or 8 in the first wave, and the first one was here at Dundee, which I think speaks volumes. It's in RDEB, which is easier to say than recessive dystrophic epidermolysis bullosa. And Irwin is a world leader in this field, and we will start there. And like all good things, if you have a collaboration, you then start growing critical mass around it, and I'm sure that this will lead to other things. And already we bought a skin company a few years ago, Stiefel, already there talking to them about eczema and other stuff. So just the last couple of slides now on celebrating success in Dundee. I said it was a love-in. These are just a few of the prizes just from this year. So Dan in carbohydrate chemistry, John Rouse gave an excellent lecture yesterday at the Kinase Consortium. Jason Swedlow, who won Innovator of the Year with BBSRC, I'll say a bit about that at the moment, and Ron Hay there, who's in Ubiquitination, who won the Biochem SOC Prize. I sit on the awards panel for the Biochemical Society, and Dundee do well in that every year. And it just occurred to me when I was putting that slide together, for the last 3 years, someone from Dundee has actually won the Novartis Prize, which is one of their main prizes. I also sat on 2 panels for BBSRC. They get their pound of flesh from me. The Innovator of the Year panel, and also the Excellence with Impact Awards. You know, this agenda at the moment to get universities to think more about the exploitation of what they do and how they impact. And Dundee cleaned up in this. So Jason won the Innovator of the Year for his stuff, and Biological Sciences won the Excellence with Impact Award. I think Jason's work is something that you should keep your eye on. He's got this open microscopy environment where you can take the images from pretty much any image data medium, and you can reanalyze and actually check the data out for yourself. So much so that some journals now will only accept your paper if you also provide the raw images, and it's his OME environment which actually allows you to do that. And then of course that structure could possibly be used for electronic health records, which I'm sure will be the next step. So my final slide, like I said, it's a bit of a love-in. I'm certainly taken by Dundee. I haven't got shares here, they don't pay me. But of all the places, and we deal with hundreds of places around the world, this is one of the, if not the best place. If you have a look at their prizes, the publication records, you know, it's second to none. I think that industry has definitely strengthened the Dundee science base. They know what's what because they listen. Cost sharing through consortia shares de-risks for the companies and also keeps us on our toes and helps us to expand the science base that we then all ultimately tap into. And finally, I think Dundee are ideally placed to continue to prosper from relationship with both pharma and biotech. I'll leave it there. Thank you. Happy to take any questions. I know it was all really clear. Right. Yes, Rowley.
So when you get these 300 proposals, what sort of process do you put these things through in order to...
Well, our people call it due diligence. I think that's a little bit of a grandiose term for what they do. But it is reviewed. We've got something called the Technology Investment Board, which is an internal group, and you have to make a case to take it through to that. And nobody, it's a bit like when you go up in front of your board, you know, you can't go there half-baked, so you have to have all the answers. Some academics, as you know, think that they've, you know, got the greatest thing since sliced bread and it's never going to be druggable in a million years, and we just have to nip those in the bud really quickly. Other people see it as a grant. Already I've had people saying, well, you know, we have trouble, you know, if we take a postdoc on, it's got to be for 2 to 3 years. You know, completely miss the point. Whereas, you know, there is risk. You have to put, Patrick Vallance is insistent that universities have to put some skin in the game, and we're in it together. And they have to be people who want to actually take a medicine all the way through. They have to be serious about it.
So, taking on board the relative naivety of quite a lot of academics, is this a very iterative process in the sense that someone makes a proposal may be lousy, but the idea might be quite interesting?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there is, and I think gone are the days, really, of academics thinking that industrial people are going to run off and run with their ideas. I mean, that's just... I mean, I want people to come back to GSK to be... You know, everybody wants to be the partner of choice, but there isn't anywhere in the world I can't go and look someone in the eyes because I know that we've always done right by them, because why would I want to shaft them? And that's biotechs and academe, because I want them to come back. I want to have the good examples. I want to wind Oxford up by telling them how good Dundee are. You know, I want to tell MIT how easy it was to do an agreement with whoever. You know, so, and that's what you're benchmarking all the time, and it's getting more difficult. You know, we are getting better, but the developing world science bases, are just taking off. So China will learn our business and they will take over in our lifetime, and we've got to be part of that. We've just got to make sure that we're smarter in certain fields and we can capitalise on it.